Hey, what's going on, everyone? I wanted to make a video on this 2018 Audi SQ5 Prestige. Picked it up a couple months ago, been having some fun playing around with it, doing some minor modifications to it that really, in my opinion, have kind of elevated the car. It's not a super old car, it's a 2018, so it's, 7 years old, but it was lacking a little bit in my opinion. So just wanted to go over the mods that I did to it. I've changed up the stance a little bit with the wheels, the tires, the suspension height. This car's on air ride, so I was able to pretty easily get this thing 1.5 inches lower. So I will start with the wheels and the tires. So I went with pretty simple 21-inch wheel. This was actually an eBay buy. I didn't really want to go crazy as far as spending a lot of money on all the stuff I'm doing. I probably won't have the car for a super long time, but I want it to look good. And this car had some really ugly aftermarket wheels on it when I picked it up. They were all curbed up. So I ended up, after doing some research and watching some other videos out there and comparing setups, I went with a 21 by 9.5, and can't remember off the top of my head what the offset is. I'll have to leave that in the description after I do this video, but it's a 21 9.5, some aftermarket wheel. It's an OEM kind of a knockoff. I'm sure a lot of you know what this style wheel comes on. If you want to leave that in the comments, but pretty happy with how the car came out. So it's 1.5 inches lowered with the ECS lowering links. Those are pretty cheap. And I did a 235/55 size tire. Sorry, 255/40. 255/40 21. So that's comparable to the stock, size tire that would come on a wheel like this. There's still a decent amount of sidewall, but the poke is pretty good. It's actually fairly flush on the car. And then I also did, after with a little experimenting on the spacer size, I did a 15 millimeter in the back and a 10 in the front. So overall, definitely happy with how this thing looks. I'll do a quick walk around here. From the back, it's pretty flush, looks good. And so right now, height-wise, the car is set on dynamic. So this is the lowest that the car will go. There's probably like 1 inch gap there in between the tire and the wheel well and the molding. It's a stiff ride. I don't ride around all the time at that height. The comfort mode is usually what I ride around in, so it's a little easier on the bumps, but and then the center caps on the wheels. So the center caps came with the wheels, but the Audi portion was not on there. So I took the rings from another set of center caps that I bought and swapped over, and I ended up using a little plastic welder just basically to get those secured on. I think it came out pretty good. I like the look. I like the chrome ring in the center. The black wheel looks good. It's a gloss black wheel. So that's basically the setup for the wheels and the tires and the suspension. Like I said, pretty easy to do, all that stuff. One of the next things I did was I changed the screen in the car. So instead of the factory 8-inch screen, I upgraded it to a 12.3. And I'll just try to turn this on real quick. So it's a Chinese brand, but you can still use your factory MMI setup, and that's how it looks. You know, it doesn't look weird in my opinion. It actually looks pretty good. But now the car's got wireless CarPlay. All you have to do is go in here and should hook up. Might not, because I have my phone on right now, but typically it connects right away. So, but yeah, the 12.3-inch screen was a game changer. I feel like that's a screen that should have come in this car from the get-go. It's a lot clearer as far as the resolution goes, and then plus, you know, the wireless CarPlay with the bigger screen, just it looks exactly how it should have. So I have a whole other video on my screen install if you want to watch that. And as far as the other mod, so I also did a remote start setup using the factory key fob. So I'm not going to start it right now, but I made another video on that also if you want to check that out. But anyways, just those. I feel like elevated it, you know, it feels like it should have. And like I said, with the lowering links, they pop on and off, so it'd be very easy to get this car back to the stock height and throw stock wheels back on it. You know, if you didn't want the aggressive kind of stance that it has now. But all right, so I just remembered a couple things maybe you guys would be interested in hearing. So figured I'd go over an issue I ran into when I was doing this whole setup. So this is actually a spacer that I initially bought and tried to go with, but I couldn't use on these wheels because of this little ridge right here. So I think on, you know, maybe like a factory wheel, this wouldn't be an issue. But on this set of wheels that I have, they're basically, the center bore is 66.6, but it didn't have that little groove for this to go in, which basically, I think what this is for is to give that centering ring more support. Otherwise it would break off. But with that, I couldn't run the spacer. The wheel just wouldn't sit flush up against it. These are 10 millimeter spacers. And initially this is what I was running in the back. So I had to try a couple different companies and sets of spacers to get these wheels to work with spacers. But ultimately I went with a 15 in the rear, which the set I got, it basically didn't have that little ridge, so it sat flush up against the wheel. So if you're considering, you know, going with this set of wheels, or I'm sure there's plenty of aftermarket setups out there where this is an issue, but yeah, it was definitely an issue for me. So at first I didn't even know if I could run spacers on these wheels. So I was a little upset and frustrated, but it just took a little bit of searching to get the right spacers, which I found them on eBay. They were pretty cheap, company in California. I'll leave a link in the description. But yeah, so anyways, that was an issue I ran into with the spacers. But I also wanted to go over just what the height of the car will be if you run these lowering links. So as you can see, I put the car into all road mode, so that's the highest setting. So I've got a tape measure here. I'm just gonna give you a view and measurement of where it's at, and then I'll go through the other two modes. So we're at like 31 in the front. About 31.5 in the rear. I'll put that into comfort mode. All right, so now I'm going into comfort mode. You see the car is lowering. Okay, it just stopped. So we're at, I don't know, maybe 30.25 to the top, or to the edge of the wheel well. And then the front. Probably 29.75, roughly, to give you an idea. And then put it down into dynamic mode. Car is going to lower a little bit more. All right, so that's the lowest setting. Yeah, so like 29.5 in the back. And about 29 in the front. So anyways, just figured I would show you guys where you'll be at. And again, these are 1.5 inch lowering links from ECS Tuning. I'll put the link to those in the description if anybody's interested. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you think. Let me know if you like the stance. Maybe it'll give you some inspiration for your car. But that's my setup. Hope you like it, and we'll see you on the next one.